You just heard the submissions of the president's media aide, Garba Shehu, in Abuja. But what are your immediate response, especially when he talks about the challenges of the insurgents in the Northeast?
He said the attacks are not increasing. I beg to disagree. Misao happened, was it last night or yesterday? I got to hear about it yesterday evening. And we've seen, one thing I want, with all due respect, Malam Garba to understand this. From his perspective, he may not see it the way I do. It's my playground, okay? If you decided there were less attacks, on a national scale, that's okay. But then if we entered into the numbers, we begin to look at the mean, the median, and the modal nature of the attacks, you'll see that it's not looking good. There could have been just 4 attacks this month, relative last month, where probably there was more, and you feel is a decrease. That's okay at that level. But at my level, it will be ridiculous if I know that these 4 attacks came within a space of 3 days, and the 6 in last week had a minimum of 9, 11 days or 6 days in between. So we look at frequency. And other than frequency, we look at casualty. And then we aggregate it. And the aggregate is not looking too good. Now, on other issues, based on my position, I have no apologies to offer anyone who thinks because I mooted the death sentence for those who clear 600 villagers in 4 hours. Let me tell you something about democracy. You see, democracy can bite.
How so?
Oh, democracy has teeth. Go and read the history of democracy. United States probably is one of the oldest proponents of democracy. Go and read their history. If you mess with their democracy, they come after you. In fact, on the logo of the United States, there is a mighty eagle. It's called the golden eagle, or is it the bald eagle? Sorry. It's a very big species of a bird. And in its claws, in its talons, it has olive branches in one and lightning in the other. You know what that means? They come with peace and war. Anyone you want is convenient. You see, this nation as we sit today, brigands, hoodlums, militants are getting bolder by the day. And you don't meet those kind of people with verbiages and democracy. They have no respect for democracy. The only thing you meet them with is the possibility of superior force that brings them to the table. And the way we are going about it, we have largely abeyant laws. You heard what Honorable Shaulu said. There are too many ungoverned spaces. So if you chase them out of Camp A, they'll go set up Camp B, and Camp C, and Camp D. The infinitesimal crux of the matter, the heart of it, is what I explained to you. It lies in what I told you about induction energy. And this induction energy is driven by a psychosocial concept we call the bystander effect. Today, as I speak to you, people could be murdered just 2 kilometers away over a span of 6 hours. So many you had to dig a mass grave with tractors to bury them, and nothing happens. In fact, the closer they are to the many, the less likely it is anything will happen. We saw it in Kaduna some days now. The one that happened hadn't even quieted down. Another one was happening. What I'm trying to tell you is this stereotypism of going, first of all, from curfew to high delegation visits to all those things we do, then we wait for the next one and the next one to happen. The indicators on ground from a security perspective may show me that it's not working. Rather, the threats become bolder. Proof that it's not working. You see the same flash points. Lessons learned, 0. They still come back and become flashpoints momentarily. Momentarily, years of peace in Kaduna State? No, I disagree. We've not had years of peace in Kaduna State. We've not had years of peace. When last was Zakzaki taken to court when that policeman was brutally slain? people use stones to break his head. Youth. That shows you that the reckoning which the police has been eroded. And the army is walking straight into that trap. The frequency with which we'll apply our army, that's our ace card. That's our joker. If you play what, that's the last card. Now they are so frequent, they are also losing reckoning. They are losing reckoning.
Let's take the situation in the Northeast, for instance, when Mifa was attacked last night.
Yes.
And then before that, we had the ISWAP who killed Hawa
Lehman, blessed memory.
And
yes.
now we still have Leah Sharibu in the hands of the insurgents. Are we slowly degenerating backwards into the dark days of a Boko Haram style of attacks and occupation?
You see, the Northeast, from my perspective, I tell you, let me relate to football so that Nigerians will understand. Our Chief of Army Staff has done a wonderful job of stabilizing the Northeast. You see, in football, there are certain players you put in, they get the job done, you bring them out. So there are phases. Stabilization, as in 2015, when they came in, they reclaimed our grounds. He did wonderfully well there, mobilized the troops, got them inspired. That's cool. Beyond stabilization, consolidation. Now, the Chief of Army Staff, as good as he is an individual. Generals have strengths and they have weaknesses, just like your football player. There is a player you can just insert into the field. He doesn't do any good finishing. He can't score a goal. But you know what? He creates the chances. And there are other players, you just put them in, they go destabilize the midfield so that you can get a mission accomplished. The generals also come with strengths. So do the service chiefs. There is a time for a service chief to thrive, and there is a time to let him go. So by now, in the Northeast, what we should be looking at is we've gotten it from here to here, and we're beginning to seemingly lose it. Is it time to change the button? Is it time to bring in another head? If you looked at military history, there were battles and campaigns that were fought, and just like CEOs who drive successes of a company's brand, at a point in time, you have to bring him out and bring in another kind of CEO who has a different strength.
So for you, the current
absolutely
has done exceptionally well.
They've done well, and it's time for us
to change them. Are you saying they should be changed?
Of course, you have to change. You see, the problem with us here is we're given to stereotypism. We believe that, you see, let me relate to the armed forces. Because there is no optimal exit plan, people tend to be scared of retirements. Retirement is not doomsday. And nobody has told you that you cannot be a Chief of Army Staff and still be in service. We had a General Martin Luther Agwai, who was actually the senior to General Saliu, who was Chief of Army Staff. There could be chiefs of army staffs who could be at a higher pedestal and still serving. So what I'm trying to tell you is that the strategy in the Northeast needs to be rejigged. The strategy needs to be rejigged. I'll give you a simple example of what I'm saying. On my database, I discovered that the insurgents have this thing for young girls. The insurgents have this thing for what you call blue chip brands. So they don't take any kind of hostages, or else they will take cattle herds as hostages. They take hostages that can give them the publicity. Publicity to the terrorists is like oxygen to me and you. It's the oxygen they need.
So the abduction of the ICRC girl, Hawa Lehman, was strategic for the insurgents.
It's strategic. It brings them that oxygen of publicity, as Margaret Thatcher put it. Margaret Thatcher, blessed memory. Now, what do? We cannot really wait for them to take these girls. Then they have us by the jugular and we think we can negotiate these girls out of it. Even if we get them out of it, we'll pay through our noses. So let's go again back to the infinitesimal, crucial aspect. How do people become lucrative? How do they become attractive targets for terrorists? As I told you, one, they will prefer to take non-governmental organizations that are popular and, serving humanity. They would like to take people from there. Two, they like girl children or what have you. So you begin to now identify these things and see how you can make it a bit more difficult. Is there a blueprint out there for all the NGOs who want to go outfield to do any kind of work? What is this blueprint?
But does the government have the capacity to police all of those ones that want to go into the field?
You do not have to think of capacity in terms of human beings, hands and legs. We have what it takes to police these people virtually. There are what you call capacity needs support. There are NGOs that actually will even have certain support that you can leverage on, which they provide for themselves, that you can leverage on. So when people are going out to do field work, they must come to you and you must clear them. Given the place you are going, given the proximity, given the history and profile of that place, vulnerability to terrorist attacks, or even presence, given our troops' presence there, is there a parity or is there no parity? Then we should be able to say, you know what, this is high priority, we have to support you. We have to give you the required cover. That should be the case. So we make it a bit more difficult for you to even get the girl child first before we even start negotiating. But right now, what we are seeing is lopsided. They take these children, we go negotiate, they're going to ask you for things they know you certainly won't meet. And it's deliberate. If they ask you for what you won't meet, by the time you negotiate and come down, you still leave them in the stars and not on the ground.
Is Boko Haram getting back to those past days where it had the capacity to occupy territories in this country?
The capacity to occupy territories has actually been taken away from them. But if you look at it, if I was a chieftain in Boko Haram and I sit down and look at my operations, I think what they are doing is they are running a lean mean machine system. You know what lean mean is? They are actually doing less but more effectively. They don't have the resources to spread and move. They don't have the resources to do what they used to do pre-2015. So they have decided to actually go lean mean. Lean mean simply means we're going to pick 2-3 places, do our worst there, and go back for the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 1 month. But the idea is they're going to pick top-notch and do things that will bring about that publicity they need. So if you were to enter their heads and do the reverse, you're going to begin to look, okay, one Leah Sharibu, one Liman, we don't need to go and burn a village to get publicity. If we pick one very prominent girl from one high-profile NGO brand and we end up knocking her off, we'll still get the publicity. It even spreads wider.
Captain Ali Umar, I must thank you. Anytime you come on the show, it's always so enlightening. Thank you so much indeed for talking to us.